right, I've got 3:30, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome. Like I said, you are in using Qualtrics to collect and analyze data. My name is Erin Lusky, and I will be here to help host this session. Before we get started, we just want to thank you for taking the time. If I'm looking at the schedule correctly, this is the last session of Staff Recognition Week, and we've got a great crowd. So thank you for taking the time to be here. This is such an important topic. Kyle, we want to thank you for being here. Kyle Blumenkamp will be presenting today on Qualtrics and using Qualtrics to collect and analyze data. We appreciate you taking the time to share this important information, what will only become more important over the coming years. So with that, Kyle, I will hand it off to you.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad that Susan and team have the confidence in me that they let me close everything down. So I hope you had a great staff recognition week and that you've learned a lot. I only have an hour and I've got quite a bit that I'm going to cover. This is being recorded, so you will have access to it and you'll be able to refer back to it. Erin is going to be watching the chat for questions as I'm demoing because I'll be on a different screen over here. So if you have a question, you can either one, just unmute yourself and ask it, that's fine. Or two, you can put it in the chat and Erin will bring it to my attention if I don't see the chat because I am busy sharing my screen. So with that, we'll jump right in here. I'm going to share my first screen. Stand by. We're going to share screen one. Here we go. There we go. Erin, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah.
A Google page?
Google.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're going to start at the very beginning on how we get in. And I'm going to turn my video off so that you don't see me typing and all of that. But just to show you how easy to get in, the login is missouri.qualtrics.com. And you already have an account. You can see, you're in the right place when you get to the Shibboleth screen here, the university login screen, and then you just click login. And it takes you to your summary page, your summary screen. So from here, we have lots of things. Let me move that just a little bit. This is just all of your projects, right? You have all projects. You can share projects with other people. You can collaborate on a project. So Erin and I could go here to collaborate and just add her name in, and then she would have the survey in her list as well. If she shared one with me, it would be under the shared with me list. And then these are just folders that I created, and you can create folders to organize your projects as well. I used to train on Qualtrics when I was an IT trainer for Division of IT. So I have lots of different surveys that have been shared with me and that I've created over the years. One caveat, so I was prepping last week, it was all great. And then I logged in earlier this week and they changed the interface. Like, this is the brand new hotness interface. So I promise I do know that all of these things are here, but if I click in the wrong spot, it's because they've given a new edit interface. They did this for me, to me, right? When I started teaching Qualtrics, 4, 5, 6 years ago now, they changed the interface again. I think they just wait for me to set up a training session and then they go ahead and change the interface. So here are all the projects that you would click into. And I just want to click right into a survey and start to show you some of the question types, right? You can create a new project here. If we create one from scratch, which I'm not going to do today in the interest of time, but you could create a brand new project here, right? I'll go through it just long enough to show you how to get one started. You could start with a blank survey or a project from scratch. That's where we'll start. And then survey and get started. You give it a title, put it in a folder right away if you want, and then you can actually import other surveys. That's a more advanced feature that we're not going to get to today, but you can import and export a QSF file so that you can actually get a hard copy of the survey or copy from an existing project if you only need to change just a couple of questions. So I'm going to cancel that, and instead I am going to go over here and open up some of the popular question types. Now I could spend a whole hour just on the question types, just the different kinds of questions. So I won't be able to go through all of them, but I will show you some of the most popular ones. This is the survey interface. You've got 4 menus here. This is where you edit your survey. They call it the survey builder. We'll talk about survey flow in a little while. Your look and feel we'll get to, and survey options. These are all very important, but I usually do them at the end. I usually build all of the questions in my survey first, and then I start with these. The key is don't forget them, because they are necessary and they do have important changes that you may want to make on your survey. So in terms of question types, right, you can see here, we all know single answer, multiple choice. You can change your question type over here on the left. This is your toolbar for whatever your active question is. And you'll see this toolbar change as I click through the questions. So this says multiple choice, allow one answer. You'll notice it has these round buttons here called radio buttons, a little internet secret. If you see the round button, you can only select one. If you want to allow multiple answers, you'll get a checkbox so that you can check more than one. So I really like how Qualtrics uses the visual clues to let you know what's going on with this particular question. Of course, this question, we only want to allow one answer. And you always want to give them the option, right? If you're asking a sensitive question, I could do another hour just on survey theory. So I'll touch on it at points, but if you ask gender or a sensitive question, give them an opt-out. There's no quicker way to get a respondent to close down the survey than to ask them a question that they can't answer comfortably or accurately. So if someone isn't male or female, if they're non-binary, I would probably put that in here as well. Or you can just say, I prefer to skip this question. So that's a single answer multiple choice. This is a multiple answer multiple choice. And you know that because of these boxes right here. Now I could change it to a different kind of a question. You can see how many different ones there are, but don't let that impose on you. Really, it's variations on a theme. A lot of these are just variations on a theme. Okay. Multiple answer, multiple choice. A matrix table is often a great option if you have the same question you're asking about lots of different topics, right? So how important would you rate the following? Maybe they're all super important and you're going to rate them all at a 7, maybe not. But you can group related questions together in a matrix table. And you can actually have a combo matrix table as well, where you're asking multiple questions of the same question on different items. I know that got a little confusing. Think about this. What percentage of people do you know? And all of my questions are designed to be facetious and funny. So please don't take them seriously, right? They're designed to either get a laugh or a groan, and you can pick which one. So this is a variation on a theme. This is called a slider. You choose it right here. And you could do this lots of different ways. You could put age ranges in 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. You could put a text entry in and they could type it in. Now, one piece of theory I'll tell you is I don't use text entry boxes unless I absolutely have to, because that makes that question qualitative, not quantitative. You can't take text entry answers and work them into any kind of statistics or data. So anytime you have the opportunity to have them answer a question using one of the other options besides text entry, then you would do that. Okay, that's a slider. And I really invite you to go to Qualtrics and set up a fake survey. You can have as many surveys as you want, and just create one. I actually used Qualtrics to create a survey to help my family plan a family vacation where we're all coming together from different places around the country, right? What are we going to do? When are we going to do it? Where are we going to stay? I used Qualtrics for that. So really the limits are kind of on your own imagination. This is a rank order question. Again, rank order right here in the question type. And if I decide I want to change the question type, it saves the data. So if I'm on the active question here and I change, say, to multiple choice, right? Notice how all my data is saved and it just moved it into a multiple choice question. or I'll take it back to a rank order question. And then when I use rank order, and not just for rank order, but in lots of different questions, putting a little 2 or 3 or 4 word prompt in the question can make it easy. It can make it easier for them to answer it correctly. I could just say rank the following in order, with 1 being the most important. And what am I supposed to do here with this question now? How do I answer it effectively? So I like to put in just a couple of instructions whenever I can. I don't want to make my question too verbose. But if I put in drag and drop to rank the following in order, now the question is clear. I would move, and you'll see it when I preview it. I can't move it now because I'm in edit mode. Then you really do just drag and drop and move them around in order. And we'll see an example of that. This is the, what one was this called? It is a matrix table, but it's a combination matrix, to where you can see before I had just the matrix table that asked just 1 question of different things. This is asking 2 questions, and actually you could work it out to 3, 4, or 5 questions about these things if you wanted as well. A constant sum, you can have these to where you can take any of the sliders to any number, or you can have it to where the sliders have to equal a certain number and can't go over that number. This one is a pick, group, and rank, or since we're in academia, we call them histograms around here, right? We've been doing this since kindergarten. Take the thing and put it in the box where it belongs, right? It's really just kind of that simple. This is one of my favorites when I'm trying to get evaluation information back. It's called gap analysis. The reason is because as a trainer, if I do a good job, I'm supposed to be doing a good job, right? I probably don't need more information on that. But if I'm not doing a good job, maybe I do want more information as to why the person who's responding wasn't happy with the job that I did. So you can add in to where if you answered this or this, then give us a little more information on why that is. Okay. And then there are other information too. I call these metadata questions, right? I like to put them in because they can help with troubleshooting. The user doesn't see them, and it doesn't record any personal information. It just takes the browser type, operating system, right? What version of Flash, so that if they're having trouble, you might be able to use some of that data in order to troubleshoot. Those are some of the most popular ones. And again, there are many different options on many of these different question types. For example, slider. Well, I can choose what kind of slider type. Do I want a slider or a bar or stars, right? So really pay attention to the left menu when you choose your question type, because it is going to lead you into the specific selections for that particular question type. Right? You could use a suggested statement. You could start in a custom position, and that's just for this slider question, right? What's your scale? How many decimals, right? It's fairly easy to understand. It's fairly intuitive once you get the question selected to realize what they're asking for. For example, are we going to make this question required? We can turn it on and make it required with force response, or we might just request a response. So they click forward without answering. A little message comes up that says, hey, you forgot to answer this, please answer it. If you just request a response, they can click forward and still skip it, but force doesn't allow them to go forward without answering the question. Okay. And as I said, one of the most fun, Qualtrics is one of the more fun programs to train on, just because they have so many different things that you can use and play around with, right? There's a text entry field. If I were to add a question here at the bottom, I can change this to a text entry field. So if you do want text entry, these 2 little diagonals here allow you to change the size of the box, which gives an indicator to the user of how much they can put in. Single line, multiple lines, or an essay text box. And when I use essay, that gives you a vertical ability to add to add the text box and make it longer so that they know that it's not just a one sentence response that you're looking for, that it's a longer response. Okay. I am going to go on and jump into a couple of the basic functions now of the survey. And I'm going to move over here, as opposed to writing all these questions out and you all watching me type. I've pre-created some questions that we can work on here that I can show you some of the options that are available. So we have a post-event survey. We had this event and we want survey data back on that event. So we click in here into the active question, question number 1. One other thing I'll tell you is they ID them as Q1, Q2. You'll see mine get out of order very quickly. Completely disregard that. Question numbers make no difference to the survey taker. The only thing that makes a difference is how much more of this survey do I have to go? What % completed am I? And we have a way to tell them that. So as we click inside here, one of the secrets to Qualtrics is clicking on the thing you want to modify and then finding the menus that go along with that thing. You can see here, I have, this is the active question, but when I click into the text box and I click the data, then I have a couple of other options. I want to show you, everything comes out as just straight standard text, but that doesn't mean it has to. If we click into the rich content editor, we get a box, an editing box that looks more like what we're used to, where we can make something bold or make something bigger or change the color, right? All of these things that you're fairly used to, I would think. So we won't spend a ton of time on them, but if you need to change the text, you can do that in the rich content editor. And then you just click back out and you can see the changes that you've made in that rich content editor. You can also remove that formatting if you don't like it, and I'll tell you about pipe text in a little while. Now this here, you'll notice this is a question, but it has no answers. That's because it's called a text graphic. So really it's just a question that has no answers to it. You choose text graphic, and that allows you to put in an intro paragraph, or maybe you need a paragraph in between questions to give some more information. That's another very popular, I hate to even call it a question type. It's really an information giving box to the user. Okay. So we'll slide down here. I'll show you these questions and then we'll start working on them. There's a lot of editing that still needs to be done to this to this survey, excuse me. What is your age? We're going to make that not required, right? If someone doesn't want to answer it, they don't have to. That data would be good, but if they don't want to answer it, that's fine. And as opposed to using a range, I like a slider bar because you can see it as you go up, right? And again, I'm in build mode, so I'm not completing this, but it does show you a bit of the functionality. So we go to the next question here. What state are you from? Well, this is a single answer multiple choice question, but I can use it from a list, which makes it really long, right? But I have 50 of these. So instead of a list, how about we use a drop down? So that brings it up to a single line. Everyone's familiar with these, right? You can go find your state and click on it. Question 4, what is your gender? Male, female? I prefer not to answer this question. Another great tip, see, notice there's even a menu on answer choice number 3 of Q4. There's even a menu and I can edit it. And so if they prefer not to answer the question, maybe you don't want their entry put into your analysis. So if I have 20 people that answer it, one person chooses I prefer not to answer, then I have a 19 of 20 response rate on that one. But if I exclude from analysis, that makes this question a 19 of 19 analysis for coding and whatnot. That can be really helpful. Also notice that I can, again, just find the menu on the thing you want to edit, click on it and see the different things that you can do with it. So you could insert a graphic if you wanted to. Okay, I also want to call your attention to blocks. When you go in and start a survey, it's all in one block. And most of you, lots of times, will have just one single block of questions, start to finish, and you're done. Think of blocks as really nothing more than groups of questions. It will become apparent here when I do one of the final steps of why I put these things in blocks, but it can be really helpful. For example, usually I have an introduction block. I'll often have, we're always getting demographics, right? So I'll keep all of my demographics in one block as well. It just keeps it easy and keeps it very separated and siloed from the others. And you can see here, we have questions that I only want to ask males. And I'll tell you how we do that here in a little bit. And I have another set of questions I only want to ask females. So that's why I made these blocks and so creatively named them male block and female block, because I'm only going to ask those questions if you tell me that you're a male or a female. And I'm only going to ask you those. I'll show you how we do that here in just a little bit. Coming on down, I created another block of academic affiliation, right? Asking someone what their class standing is. And I'll get to all of these. These are my prompts so that I get everything in the right place at the right time without messing up. But other questions that we're asking about these people in the academic units, right? And then finally, another block on club information. Are you remember any clubs, teams, or organizations? And a couple of other questions about clubs. And then finally, rating the following items at the event. You can see that's a rank order or a matrix table. Sorry, that's a matrix table question because I'm asking a Likert scale on the various different things that we're metricizing for this fake event that we have. How could we have improved, and how likely are you to attend another event of this kind? Notice this is a horizontal single answer multiple choice. You can change that to vertical if you want, right? Or horizontal. Oops, I did that on an above one. You could change it to vertical, or you could change it back to horizontal. Again, my left menu choices change based on what my active question is, okay? So we'll go back up here to the top, and I will start with the three kinds of logic that we can add to these questions. Now, this is one of my favorite features about a survey. With a paper survey, you can only hand them all the questions and hope that they answer the ones they're supposed to and don't answer the ones they're not supposed to. When you use skip logic and display logic, you can put the questions in front of them that they're supposed to answer, or you can force them to skip questions that they aren't going to answer. Okay? So when I ask, what is your gender, right? If they say, I prefer not to answer this question, we can click on here and then add, nope, that's not where it is. It's down here. Like I said, it's a new interface. I've been working with it for about 2 days is all. I can add skip logic here to where if they, this is how many questions are we going to skip and where are we going to skip them? So I want to skip them to the end of the block if I prefer to answer is selected. I prefer not to answer is selected. You confirm that skip, right? And then there's skip logic on this question. Now it's the last question in the block, right? So that's not going to make any difference. However, if I edit and say, okay, if, just hypothetically, I would never do this. But if you say, if you prefer not to answer, we need male and female data. That's what our whole study is on, pardon me. So if you don't want to answer that question, I'm sorry, but I don't have any other questions to ask you. And you can skip them all the way to the end of the survey and they don't have to even answer any more questions. And you get the logic right here in the question so that you can see that there is skip logic on this question. Okay, so we'll move down here to the male block, right? So that's skip logic. And I used to get them mixed up because it seems like you could use them interchangeably, but there are definitely better ways to use skip logic and better ways to use display logic. So this is only questions that we're going to ask males. And we're going to say, have you ever seen instances of gender inequality? Do you feel that they're treated differently? If they answer yes to either of these questions, then I want to ask them more. If they answer no to both of them, that's fine. Move on. I don't need to ask you more about that. So I want to ask them more right here in this question 10. All right. So we're going to add display logic to question 10. And you can add logic on lots of very advanced things, but you're almost always going to leave it on question until you get into embedded data, which is the next level of advanced, but you'll always leave this first one on question. And then you select the question if Q8 yes is selected, and then we'll save it. Great. Display this question if, as a male, Q8 yes is selected. Well, I need more than that. I need, if they answer yes on Q9, I want to add that as well. So we can edit the condition, and we'll add a condition right here in this green button. Now, this is very important. When you're adding logic, is it inclusive logic or exclusive logic? If I leave this as and, they'd have to answer yes on Q8 and Q9. Notice I changed that to Q9. Yes. But I want it on if they answer yes to either of those. So you change this and to an or. And now, and then I always do this just to check my own self. I read it back to myself and see if it makes sense. Display this question only if, as a male, blah, 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 yes is selected, or do you feel treated differently in academic division? Yes is selected, and we click save. Okay, so now I've added display logic. Stand by 1 second. Pardon me. We've added display logic to this question, where if the males say no and no, they're not going to get this question. If they say yes to either of these, they are going to get this question, and that's display logic. I'm going to do it one more time down here because we're going to end up sending males and females down two separate survey tubes, I guess is one way to look at it, two separate survey highways. So we need to do this again in this block. Oop, see, it used to be over there on the right. We're going to display logic. Notice my question numbers are already out of order. It doesn't matter. I have the blue ring is around Q7. You can also click the box here to ensure that it's the active question. But if the blue ring is around it, it is the active question. We're going to add display logic. And once again, my questions are Q5. Yes. Add a criteria. Change it to or. Change this to Q6. Yes is selected. So now, as I read it back, if as a female is yes, or do you feel that your male counterparts yes? If either of those is answered yes, they're going to see this question. Okay. I am going to jump down here for just a second. We'll just work our way down.
Kyle, we do have a quick question.
Okay, great. Hang on, let me get my
go ahead.
I'll bring my chat up. To get to the male female blocks to use display logic on the gender question, you don't, Kimberly. That is a fantastic question. And I'm going to show you about survey flow here in a little while. And that's how we're going to send them down their particular highway. You conceivably could do it with skip and display logic, but it become way more cumbersome. And I'll show you an easy way to do that at the end once we get our questions edited up a bit, but a fantastic question. All right. As we move down here, I want to show you about piped text. This is an amazing, amazing feature that is extremely robust, and you can use it in a bunch of different ways. I'm going to show you pretty much the simplest way to use it, right? So what is your class standing? Someone's going to pick sophomore. And so I could say, what is your biggest hindrance to success? But I want to say, as a sophomore or as a junior or as whatever it is you just said, right? What is your biggest hindrance to success? So I'm going to take out my prompt here that I put in here, delete it. So now see where my cursor is as a blank in your academic unit. And I'm going to click here on piped text. And that's really what it is. You are piping in text from a different question or from an embedded data field or from some other option. So I want to pipe text from, and I always do this, Q22, right? That's the one thing I wish they put the Q numbers on here because they have to abbreviate the questions so hard that they're hard to read sometimes. From Q22, where are we? Here we go. What is your class standing? And I want to pipe in, what do I want to pipe in? I could pipe in the question text. Doesn't make much sense to, but I could. I could pipe in any of them. When it says descriptions, that's just the word that's by the radio button, right? That's not their selection. That's just the word by the radio button. So if I chose this, it would always say as a senior, right? Which is not true. All choices, which I've never used before. I'm not sure why you would use them. Displayed would show all 5 of those choices. Not displayed is a more advanced thing where you can put in a random subset of choices where it's not all of them, right? We're getting into more summative and analysis and evaluation type stuff. But the one I want to choose is selected choices. Since there's only one, it's only going to be a selected choice. So I want the selected choice from what is your class standing. Oh, it didn't do it. Maybe I didn't click on it properly. Selected choices. There we go. You'll know that it worked, and you don't want to mess with this code. It looks silly, but this code is what's going to pipe in that selected choice from the previous question. Okay, so you leave it just like that, right? And once again, because this is a multi-answer, multiple choice, I like to put in a few words so that they don't think they can only pick one, so that they know that they can choose all that apply. Okay, you can pipe things to and from just about anywhere. And actually, I normally don't talk about pipe text that much in a beginner course, but I've added that to this curriculum because it's a really important feature that you can use to help reduce error and to personalize the survey for that person. So what is your biggest hindrance to success? Please check all that apply. Right, what we want it in a list or a select box, right? What format do we want it in, vertical or horizontal? We want to allow multiple answers. One other nice thing is that you can add, so maybe I want to add a choice here, right? And maybe we'll put, right? And then I usually keep my other text box at the bottom. So I would take pandemic and I would just move it up one. You can see how easy that is. I went to that answer choice, found that menu, and then went in and made the change. All right, moving down, Q12, rank the things you listed above in order of how much they affect you with the biggest affectation on top. Now, again, if we were in paper copy, you just have to list all of them and they'd have to rank order them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But this is a third piece of logic. I've shown you show logic or display logic. I always say show. I've shown you display logic and I've shown you skip logic. Now I want to show you carry forward choices. So what I really want in this question are the things they chose from this question. I don't want the things they didn't choose, just the things they did. And that is a carry forward. So down here in question behavior, there's carry forward choices, right? We'll click on it. And then we can carry forward choices from what question is it? It's Q11 as a, and then you get, right, the code here that are selected choices. And that's pretty standard. That's why they default to selected choices. So carry forward anything the user picked from Q11. Now, it doesn't have to be the previous question. I could carry forward selections from any question. The only caveat, obviously, is that the question I'm carrying forward from has to come before the question I'm asking now. And trust me, it has happened where you're reordering questions and all of a sudden your carry forward question comes before the things you want them to carry forward. So make sure that it's a question that comes from before. It's Q12, I believe. No, Q11. Here we go. What is your biggest hindrance to success? That are selected choices. We confirm. And now you can see where once there was nothing, now all of these are here and they have this little logo by it, meaning this is not something that I typed in. We're carrying these forward from the previous question. And I'll walk through the survey once so that you can see how that works. So those are 3 of the major pieces of logic: display logic, skip logic, and carry forward choices. We have a couple more that I want to put in. Are you a member of any clubs, teams, or so we're in a different block now. Are you a member of any clubs, teams, or organizations within your academic department? But I'm asking 3 more questions about that club. What happens if the user picks no? Then they can't answer those questions accurately anymore, or they can't answer these questions at all, and they might even be confusing. So we're going to add skip logic again to this question that says if nope, I was on the wrong active question. I need to be on this question. Q3, skip. If it is, hold on just a second here. It's supposed to be giving me skip logic on this question, and it's giving it to me on the next question. Skip from this question to, do you want it to skip to another question in that block, to the end of the block, or to all the way to the end of the survey? Well, I have some more questions I want to ask them, even if they're not in a club, but this is my club block. So we're going to skip them to the end of the block if no is selected. Okay, we'll confirm that. Again, you can read it. Skip to end of block if no is selected. Great. If they ask no, we don't want to ask them any more questions. But if they do, say they put in the Quidditch team right here, right? They were part of the Quidditch club, which Mizzou has, or did have, by the way. I want to bring that word, whatever they typed in this box, I want to bring that word into this question. And again, I can use piped text in order to do that. So I'll take my placeholder away, click on piped text. Again, we're coming from a survey question. It's Q13, because I'm looking up there at it. And then instead of selected choices, because if I just choose selected choices, what would be piped in is, yes, please note which one below, right? But if I choose selected choices entered text, that means that there's a text box on that question, and I want whatever's in that text box to pipe into this next question. So I'll choose selected choices entered text. You can see the code goes in. Don't mess with that code. Do you feel that this club, team, organization helps you achieve your academic goals? And would you join this club again? And then finally, once more, pipe text. I want the name of the club again in here. So I'll delete my placeholder, choose pipe text. Now, again, I don't have to, I could pipe in whether or not they're a freshman or a sophomore here, or the text of what they think should be done to address the issues. Doesn't make sense, but I could do it. So, but what I want is actually question 23. No, not question 23. It is Q13. That's what it is. Are you a member of any clubs, teams, or organizations? And again, I want selected choices entered text because I want that Quidditch team word to come in here. All right. And then finally, this question. So here I have a matrix table. And if I decided that if they say very satisfied, satisfied, or neutral, I don't want to show them this question. But if they say very dissatisfied or dissatisfied on any of these, I do want to show this question. So I'm going to click on the question. Again, this is display logic. If Q15, and then we have to select the choices. And now there's lots of them, right? Because they could pick very dissatisfied about food, but they might be really satisfied about the beverages or some other part of it. And you could even get down into only if food dissatisfied, then show a question that says what was wrong with the food. If beverage dissatisfied, then we create another question that says what was wrong with beverage. You can narrow it down that way. If they say dissatisfied or very dissatisfied to any of these, I want to pop this one box and I want to know more about it. So I would choose, if they choose very dissatisfied, the difference between this and count is that I can choose on count how many times. I don't want to show this box unless they say very dissatisfied 3 times. Well, I want it even if they say it once. So I'll say very dissatisfied is selected. But I also want just dissatisfied. So I'm going to add a criteria, move my and to or, still question 15, and I can add dissatisfied as well. So I have very or just dissatisfied on my display logic. I click save, then I reread through it. And if either of those questions, or if either of those answers on any of these questions show up, then we're going to pop this box and we're going to ask them about it. Okay. Let's see here. I think that's all we have in terms of applying logic, and we'll find out in the preview. And the other thing is you preview and you test and you preview and you test until you're so sick of the survey that you don't even want to look at it anymore. However, when it's perfect, then it's good enough to go out. If it's not perfect, then you risk getting back data that's incorrect. And it's like throwing a rock. Once the rock leaves your hand, you can't get it back into your hand. Once you distribute a survey and people start taking it, it's really hard to change because you start to skew the data. Okay, so I think we have all of our logic in. And so now I want to show you back to Kim's question, Kimberly, on how do we get the males on the male question and the females on the female question. And that's done right here in survey flow. Okay. And you might just want to play around with this a bit. I'm going to show it once. It's not fiddly, but it can take a little getting used to. But I did want to show how you can separate the blocks out. So I want to ask everybody right now, everybody gets every question, which isn't right. I want to ask everybody the introduction. I want to ask everybody the student demographic, but that's where I'm asking them male or female. So I want to put, so this is how do you flow them? This is like a flow chart. How do you flow them through the survey? So I'm going to add below here, and I'm going to add a branch to my survey. And the branch won't be triggered until you add a condition. We don't know how to do this until you tell us what it is. So I'll add a condition and I'll say, what is your gender, male is selected, and you click OK. Okay, if they say male, we're going to do whatever this new element is here. I've already created my block, so I can go to the move button. See, I get the four-way arrow and drag it up. You can see you can move it anywhere you want to and follow the green line. I can move it before or after any block, but I actually want to move it into that element. So I moved it into that element. So if gender male, then show the male block. Great. I have to do it once more though. I have to create a second branch for females. So I go back up here to student demographic, add below, and branch again. This time, same question. Choose female. Now grab the female block, which we've already written. Click on the move button and put it, you can see this is where it might be fiddly because there it looks like it's in the right spot, but it's actually below that branch. You have to put it into that branch and drag and drop there. And now the way this goes is everyone gets intro, everyone gets demographics, then females are going to get the female block, males are going to get the male block, and then they all come back together for the final questions. So we branch them in the middle and then bring them back together for the final questions. So that answers your question, Kim, on how do you get those in one spot or another. You could do it conceivably. The logic is there to do it with display and skip, but it's just a lot more cumbersome because you'd have to touch every single question and add skip or display to every single question, whereby here I put them in the blocks and then I can just flow them through the way I want. I'll click apply. I will also tell you, I've told you about preview. If I was doing this and I had more than an hour or it wasn't a demo, I'd have run through this maybe after every selection just to make sure that I'm working the correct way going forward and I'm not introducing a whole bunch of errors that maybe then I can't find later on. The only reason I haven't previewed this 10 times already is because I'm on a demo and I'm under a time gun. So that's in survey flow. The next option is look and feel. And there are some really important things here in look and feel. Now, the university, you can see here, has lots of different themes. If you are a department that wants your own survey theme, you would call the Assessment Resource Center here on campus, or ARC. They manage Qualtrics and can put a new theme in for you. That's not a free process, but it can be really helpful. Funny side note, when they first came on with Qualtrics, agroforestry, because it starts with A, was first. They didn't have the default generic as the first one. And so there were lots of agroforestry surveys going out because people didn't know that you can change your theme. So I would say my criteria is, should I use a Mizzou theme or not? Well, am I officially chartered to create this survey by my boss or someone from the university? If so, then yes. If not, if I'm doing it about our family reunion, I don't want to do it on Mizzou letterhead, right? So you can change that right here, and you can change it to a preset, right? Where they only give you 4 or 5 presets. There used to be a lot more presets, but the beauty now is that you can put in whatever background you want, and I can change it to a photo and upload an image. Now I've preloaded some images here into my file library, but you can also upload a new graphic right here. So I can go to my desktop and grab a new graphic, but I'm going to choose this fractal one. And then I even want to increase my opacity a little bit. You see how malleable this all is. So that way it washes out a little bit more and that my words don't get lost. Okay. So that's the background. I've shown you the theme. Layout, you can just choose options on layout, how you want it to look. General, if you want your buttons, you could make your buttons the Mizzou tiger pointing one way and the Mizzou tiger pointing the other way if you wanted to. The progress bar, you can have it with no text. So look right above the MU logo on the screen that I'm sharing. I'm going to change it to none, and you can see that there's nothing there, right? With text shows you the bar with 0 and 100. Without text shows you the bar up there. I don't like that because it takes you a little while to figure out what it actually is. Eventually you may figure out what it is, but you're not sure. And then this is their little joke. If you guys, verbose means using too many words, but verbose just says survey completion. So 2 words is then verbose. That's the one I like to use and the one I usually default to, because then I know exactly what this is out of the gate. Another great thing is that this already auto codes for mobile. So you can see what it looks like on mobile or on desktop, which is really great. Where do you want the progress bar? This is an important one. This is probably the most important one on this menu, because one of the caveats I showed you about carry forward. Well, if the question I ask and the responses that I want to carry forward, if those 2 questions are on the same page, Qualtrics can't record the choices in order to then carry them forward. You have to click this button so that the choices get recorded so they can actively carry it forward. So my standard on how many questions per page is 1 question per page. So you answer the question, click next. Answer the question, click next. The other beauty of this is that you have a better shot at getting more data recorded. So if I answer 6 questions at 1 question per page, and then I stop and my power goes out, right? You have 5 of my answers already because I was on question 6 when the power went out. If I have all the questions on the same page and I'm through 5 questions and then the power goes out, Qualtrics hasn't recorded any of that data. So I like 1 question per page. Your mileage may vary, but that's usually a pretty popular option, and you'll see why. Style gets into a little bit advanced. You can change text color, font, right? Foreground contrast, how much spacing do you want there to be, what size you want the question and answer text to be. And you can actually, if you're good with CSS, you can override CSS here in these boxes and add in CSS code to override the way it looks. Motion is just how the questions go from one to the next, right? Do they fade? Do they slide in from the side? Do they fade in from the back? Or do they flip 180? I like fade, it's easy. You can see here autofocus just brings the words into focus, kind of a little fancy thing. If you want to add a logo, you can add a logo. I'm going to change the image and I'm going to put in this rainbow image instead. Right, I would probably, if I was doing this, I'd go in and remove the background from that rainbow image, right? So you can't see the white background, but I just wanted to show you what it was like. And placement, do you want it left, centered, or right justified? So that's the look and feel, all the menus in the look and feel And they're very important. That one question per page, if nothing else, picking the right theme and picking one question per page warrants coming to Look and Feel. Finally, survey options. Excuse me. I'll save my changes. And then we have some menus over here and some options over here. What language is it in? What's the name of it? That's what shows up. Whatever I put here is what's going to show up here in the tab. Okay. A survey description. I didn't put a description into this one, but you sure can. Do you want to have question numbers? I advise against question numbers because, again, they don't do anything for the end user. Go down here to responses. Do you want to put a back button on so they can go back and answer the previous question? Do you want them to save it and finish later? Do you want to use custom error message if they skip a required question or if they provide an invalid response? This is important. What about incomplete surveys? What about the 5 questions that I got done before my power went out? Is that enough data that I want to record it, or do I have to have a complete set of data? If it's incomplete, how long am I going to give them to go back and complete before I either discard or take the data and add it to my data set? What activity determines when to start the timer? This is survey expiration. I can set my survey so that you can only find it on certain times, within a certain window. If I leave it open to collect responses, anytime someone finds the link, they're going to be able to put a response in. So you can put an expiration in. And then you can also send a message to people who, after you've made it inactive. In security, is this available to anyone or invitation only? We'll make this available to anyone. You could have a password whereby you have to know the password is Mizzou in order to even start taking the survey. This is a really cool thing. A way to lock it down is the only way you can take the survey is if you come from a specific URL. So I could put in, if I put the link to the survey on the extension web page, and I don't want anybody finding it, bots or anything to find it, then I can put this here. And the only way the survey will become active is if you click on the link from the website URL where it's listed. That's a really great feature. Ballot box, I used to know it as ballot box stuffing. This allows them so they can't submit more than once from the same IP address. This can't stop me from going in and clicking on that link in the computer lab though, and doing it 15 times on 15 different computers. But it can stop me from clicking on my phone the same time all the time. I'm running out of time here. Prevent indexing, so search engines can't index it. I would definitely do that, or you'll get lots and lots of bots and spam. And then anonymized responses. Don't turn this on unless you truly don't want to know anything about, the people and where they. If you're sending a track survey out to a known list, and you want double blind, you turn this on. Otherwise, you wouldn't. All right. And finally, you can customize the end of survey message. You can send a thank you email. You can manage an email trigger. If I want an email that comes to my inbox anytime someone completes my survey, I can. Or maybe I want it that where if anyone is very dissatisfied, then I want it to. And I can set a trigger on that. And then I can also set a trigger to add someone to a contact list after they've completed the survey. So there's some really great options there on getting your survey takers into a contact list and getting a specific email. So, maybe there's 1,000 surveys coming in, but I only want to know right away if someone said very dissatisfied about beverage, for example. So you could set that email trigger as well. So those are your 4 menus here along the left side. And it can be really important and you should use them. I want to, because no one has taken my survey yet, we'll let it reload here. And then I want to use the tool and I'm going to generate some test responses here. This is a good way to test if your data is coming in correctly. And it's just going to run through it, 25 times. And now I have 25 responses. Now it's fake data, so we'll want to dump it before we go live, but that lets you see, and I know we only have 5 minutes left, but that lets you see in your data and analysis. Actually, while it's indexing, I'll go over here and show you the distribution. Now we've created this survey. How do we get it out? Well, we can either do it with, this is probably the most popular. You get the anonymous link, copy this, and I can paste it anywhere. You can paste it into a Canvas course, you can paste it into an email, right? You can do whatever you want with it. Or you can use emails where you can use Qualtrics to send to a specific number of email addresses, right? Maybe I'm sending it to everyone on this session and I have all your email addresses. I can upload those and compose an email so that everyone gets their own link and their own tracked link, right? Or you can generate personal links for custom distribution as well. Anonymous link is by far the most popular because most of the time we don't know who all is taking the survey. So we don't know everybody that we're sending it to. If we do know everybody we're sending it to, then I use emails. That's the main parts of distribution, is you're either going to send it via anonymous link or via an email. And you can even set up multiple distributions where you've sent it to 2 or 3 different sets of people. Move over here to data and analysis. Now I have my fake responses. If I want response from one specific person, I can export it to a PDF, right? If they screwed up, you can delete the response so they can do it again, or they can retake as a new response. So there's actions over here on the right. You can export and import all your data into an Excel CSV, or there's lots of different ones. TSV, Excel, XML, SPSS, right? Lots and lots of things you can export to. And then there are also, you can delete them, you can delete survey previews, you can delete your survey tests, etc. The last thing I'll show you is reports. And this lets you filter on various questions that come up. So drag slider to the track number, minimum, maximum's 100, average age is 53, right? Or I could say, as a male, do you ever see instances of gender inequality? Well, a lot more said yes than said no. So this reporting allows you to get some basic data back out of your survey. I will admit that I am an Excel guy. I don't use these reports nearly as much as I do. I export to CSV and I do most of my statistical analysis in Excel. The nice thing about this is it's real time. I can be seeing stats even as people are still generating responses. Okay, I felt like I rushed those last 2 just a little bit. I have 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left of the session, and I am happy to stay on after if anyone has questions. That is not a problem. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat that you might want to click on and bookmark, because I don't know if the chat gets recorded. University of Michigan made a really great Qualtrics wiki. And then this is the Qualtrics official topics A to Z, right there. Some of their knowledge base are both in there as well. So I did get through a lot in 1 hour, just so you know. Normally I would, if I was taking this in-person class, this would be 2.5 or 3 hours worth. But since it was being recorded and you can go back and review it, I wanted to get you as much information as possible. And so if you have any questions, you're welcome to put them in the email. I'll hang out as long as needed to answer them. But that is the basics of Qualtrics. If you can internalize those things, you should be able to send out successful Qualtrics forms and surveys. I would say preview, 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 have someone else preview, and make sure that go through all of your different show logic and skip logic to make sure that it works as well before you leave. And did I not send those links to everyone? I did not. Okay. There's one. And I'll go get the other one. And now you're more than welcome to unmute and ask a question or put it in the chat. But Erin, I think that's all the content I have.
Kyle, thank you. That was an hour very well spent, very efficient. We appreciate your knowledge. I just posted in the chat again where this recording will be available, so you can reference it later. It will be available in mid-June. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to contact our team. And Kyle, again, thank you for your time.
So happy to help. So happy to help. You can call ARC. Oh, one last thing is you can also call the Qualtrics 800 number. They're great. Some of the best customer support I've ever had, and I'm not even lying, and they don't pay me to say that. So if you have trouble, you can call the Qualtrics customer support, and they're really great. Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. I'm happy to stay on until we're sure there's no more questions. Go ahead, Jessica.
Yeah, so my question is, I was sent a collaboration link for a survey and I can't figure out how to get the survey. Do you have any wise words for that?
Sure. One thing, did they send it to you while you were already logged in? Like, were you
No.
sitting? Okay, you weren't sitting here looking at this screen when they collaborated with you.
Nope.
Okay, then that makes me think, so one thing you do have to do on occasion, they have this refresh account. So I'll be logged in, somebody will call and say, I need help. I've just shared it with you, but I'm already logged in. So I have to refresh the account so it picks up the share, right? But if they shared it with you and you weren't logged in and then you log in and it is not under the shared with me list, right? This is every survey and actually who it's coming from on projects that have been shared with me. If it's not here, then they probably didn't get the collaboration request incorrectly.
So I need to reach out to them and say, hey, can you send this again? Would that be the best method?
And so, yeah. And so when they collaborate, let's see here. I want to get all my projects and pick one that's me. And I pick collaborate. I'll show you what this screen looks like. If you pick my name, or actually, no, I'm going to pick somebody I know. Melinda Wolverson, my former colleague, you'll notice she has a hashtag in the middle here, not an @ sign. That means she already has logged into Qualtrics, right? And you can collaborate with her and I click on her name. So another thing, maybe they got it there and they clicked save. Maybe they didn't click the add button here. Maybe they didn't send the message because you should have even gotten an email or a notice that someone is trying to collaborate with you.
Yes,
right?
and I got the email.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, are you a new user?
Nope.
Do you have any projects?
Yep.
Okay, so when Qualtrics did the interface upgrade, they introduced a few bugs.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
I've gotten a whole lot of phone calls the last few weeks or last couple of weeks over the upgrade. Jessica, if you need me to, I can work with you and help you see if we can figure out what's going on with that account.
Okay. She sent me 3 and those came through, but the last one that I got the collaboration email didn't. So shall I just email you tomorrow, Erica? Would that be good?
Absolutely. You might also reach out to her again and have her remove you as a collaborator on that survey and try again. It could be something like that too.
Okay. Thank you both.
Erica, you're from ARC, aren't you?
I am. I'm the Qualtrics brand administrator.
That's right. That's well. I'm glad I didn't know that until after my presentation was over. That way, it didn't make me nervous. I used to work with. It's not Gary. Who's the other?
Phil.
Phil Merriman is who I used to work with back when I was a trainer. But I know I've talked to you a couple of times. It's good to see your face.
It's good to see you too.
Yeah. So if there's any other questions, I'll happily take them. Erica is one. If I'd have known that, I'd have been pushing people off on you this whole time, Erica. But call Erica, talk to her. She knows what's going on. But one of my favorite things to do, Erica, is when you call Qualtrics and you can stump their customer support. And when they go, I'm going to need to get back to you on that one. That's a really great question. Then I consider it a success.
One interesting thing about calling Qualtrics support these days, you actually have to be logged in. You can't get to them, to their 800 number anymore unless you are logged into their support site.
Aha.
If you need to do that, we have instructions actually on our website for how to do it, but the organization name is Missouri, all lowercase.
Okay, it's good to know. I haven't called support in some time. I knew they had made a change, but I'm glad you can still get to them. I was afraid that they had taken away that telephone number completely. They don't make it easy to find.
They don't. You have to be logged in, basically, is what it is. So
Yep.
you enter the organization name, then it'll bring you up for SSO to log in, and it'll bring the information. You can chat with them in real time and also email them.
Great. Thank you for the info, Erica.
You're welcome.
All right, well, I'm sure everyone else has ends of their day that they want to start getting toward, so it doesn't look like any more questions are coming in. Thanks again, everyone, for the opportunity. If you start playing around with Qualtrics, I am confident that you will find many, many ways to use it effectively. It is a great, great tool. Enough that when I stopped being a technical trainer, I actually was looking for jobs with Qualtrics organization at one point. That's how much I like this platform.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Have a good
Talk to
one.
you later. You bet.